fantastic.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. We'll do an hour per game. That seems like a decent sort of breakdown for us, right? That's all we
I think
need.
it makes sense.
I agree. I completely agree. All right, there we are. We are live on YouTube. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the NBA DFS Strategy Show. It is Monday, March 9th. Myself, Josh Engleman, still sporting the mustache.
Looking good, man. Looking fresh.
Neither of those two words are the right words for the description of this.
I mean, it could be worse. I said it last week. I'll say it again.
I'm not looking good. I'm not looking fresh. I promise you on both of those things. Oh, God, it's bad. Below me.
4 days to go. 4 days to go.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere. It's just not. So, unintended consequence of this mustache that I did not know was going to happen. And this is not going to be an appealing conversation for anybody. But it has fully dried out my face. So my face can't handle being exposed to the elements.
Are you moisturizing?
Yeah, like in an excessive way. Not only that, I think that somehow my beard was a shield for my earlobes, and my earlobes are dry.
Interesting. Now, has there been any cold weather around there lately?
It's been like, dry-ish.
Does it affect your face?
Yes.
Like, do you go outside and say,
no? You can
God,
stop that question at, do you go
keep
outside?
me warm?
No. I'm not out like walking around.
Okay. You don't walk the dogs?
No.
Really?
No.
You don't walk your dogs?
No.
That's disgraceful.
Well, Katie does from time to time, but they go to doggy daycare. They don't have to be walked. They go and like play with other dogs.
Oh, well, that's different.
Yeah.
That's different.
I can't be walking, dude.
By the way, think about what Josh just said. He works from home and sends his dogs to doggy daycare.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I wanted to tire out the boxer, I mean, I would have to take him like for miles and miles. I can't. It's basically like paying for a gym membership for him. He needs it. He needs to run himself absolutely to empty, and then reset for like 2 days.
Fair enough. Yeah, I take mine for a good 1.5 mile walk or so each day. She enjoys it.
Yeah, no, not for me. I mean, that's basically just like a smoke break for you, though, right?
Well, 2, but yeah.
There you go. So okay, yeah. Like I don't have.
No. I
would probably go for walks if I was on like Siggy breaks constantly.
I mean, yes or no, yes and no. No, like, do I use that as a way to smoke a cigarette? Of course. However, even if I didn't, would I still take her for a walk? Absolutely.
Not nearly as often.
I would every day. Every day. Damn right I would. You know how easy it is for me to just step outside?
You say
I don't
easy.
need to take her.
I
don't need to take her for a walk. I'm not at a place of business. I'm not at work, or well, I am at work. I'm not in an office building.
True.
Where I have to, nah.
But anyway, yeah. So I need my beard to come back to protect me. It's like my shield.
Well, it'll be back. I thought you said you're not going to shave as much.
You
changed your mind that quick, huh?
Well, I mean, I don't want to, but it's having negative consequences on my life.
That just sounds bizarre.
I mean, it's true. What do you want me to do? I'm not making that up. Why would I make that up?
Have you noticed any strange looks?
No, only from people that know me. Like people that don't know me, like you don't ever notice what like people's hair looks like when it's like mildly normal.
What have people said when they've seen you?
They've mostly just laughed in my face.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I want, by the way.
Lots of like, everybody hide your kids. That sort of stuff.
Right, of course.
Yeah, the classics.
It's the right move. You got to take precaution.
Yeah. Yeah, the wife's best friend is getting married. So we had talked about I needed to get this done before the wedding. But she had her bridal shower this weekend. So I stopped by at the end. We were all going out, get some drinks afterwards, and there was 15 people still there, and I got to walk into that just verbal abuse. That was fun.
Would you have gone to the wedding like that?
Would I have gone to the wedding? Yeah, I don't care. Would I have been allowed?
Katie cares.
Yeah, probably. I mean, ultimately she's going to be like, yeah, do whatever. She doesn't like truly care, but
right.
She would prefer me to not look like this.
I think most would.
Yeah, which I can't say I blame anybody. It's not appealing. It doesn't. Again, it's not bad. It's just not good.
Well, at least you only got 3 games. You only have to be on screen for less time than normal.
I know. Good. Helpful. 6-gamer yesterday on FanDuel. That's what I'm pulling up now in lineup study. They didn't have the 6 o'clock games last night. They went straight to the 7s. Also, tonight, lock is at 7:30. Please adjust your expectations accordingly. Highest scorer on the slate yesterday. Surprise, surprise, Luka Doncic. And then seamlessly coming back into playing time, Andre Drummond. 57.9 fantasy points at.
He back.
Yeah. Until he sits in the next game, I'm sure. DeJounte Murray, 55 fantasy points. 6 steals.
There were some big performances yesterday.
6 steals and a block. 7 stocks on FanDuel. That's big time. Shabazz Napier, 52 fantasy points. On the one day that I don't play him because I didn't play yesterday. That's fantastic. Jam that dude into everything every other day. Useless. Absolutely useless. It's amazing. It's amazing. I should have told everybody that I wasn't going to be playing yesterday. They would have known. Fire up Napier. It's going to be a good day, boys. 3.8% owned. I probably would have had 30.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And by the way, what's going on with the Denver Nuggets, man?
I have absolutely no idea, but it's kind of a bummer. I mean, they could be the Sixers on the road, though.
It's not just that. They got smoked by Golden State at home.
Yeah.
Mike Malone asked, he goes, who are we? Like, basically, to the media, who are we? It's, I don't understand it.
I don't get it either, man. I don't get it either. But I am starting to get pretty excited for the NBA playoffs.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's going to be good. The Western Conference playoffs are going to be like must-see TV from start to finish.
So DraftKings took a bet, a futures bet, on the Clippers winning the Western Conference. $976,000.
What's the line?
They got him. The bet was at plus 230, right? They took him. They got him at $967,000 bet. The guy that works behind the window, that's like a longtime bookmaker, said it's the biggest futures bet he's personally taken.
900
Crazy.
Large on Clips to win.
Well, basically, it's 25,000 short of $1 million.
Oh yeah, I wasn't listening really. I mean, not to like the detail, like the 9 is the first number that I'm hearing.
Right, but that's a lot of that's a ton of money to be placing on a futures bet.
Yeah.
On any bet.
I mean, I assume they're placing that. Well, one, you're placing that obviously with a lot of money in general in your life.
I would hope so, yes.
And then 2, you have plenty of opportunities to like hedge off pieces and like, buy yourself out of pieces of that.
Did you hear about Parlay Pats?
I don't know what any of that is.
This story is well worth telling.
That's a person?
Yeah, Patz was his last name, like Ben Pats, I think. He kind of like rose to sports betting fame. And it was because he would put money on like big parlays, like big money line favorites, and he made like grossed 1.1 million in 2 months over the 2019 football season. So he just got indicted upon charges of threatening players and their families. And he was doing it on Twitter and Instagram burner accounts. If you heard the threats that he was making, I try not to laugh at them, but they are so messed up that
can you send me a link that I can read one?
Oh yes. I'll give you a hint. Yeah. I will behead you and your family with a dull knife. I'll enter your home while you sleep and end both of you. That's one of them, and that's tame. That's like the tamest one from all of the threats that he made. He was making them to Julian Edelman, to family members, Tampa Bay Rays players. He's facing like 5 years. This was crazy, man. These threats are like, I'll send you a link.
That is aggressive.
Aggressive to say the least. Yes, very aggressive.
Wow. Yeah, you just can't do that kind of stuff, man. You just can't.
No, you can't.
Whew. Well, on that note, we've got something a bit more uplifting. You know what that is?
What's that?
Super Draft.
Super Draft.
Super Draft projections free today, everybody. 3-gamer. We've got, I think, 4K up top. My memory is garbage, so let me pull it up. 25K guaranteed, 5K up top for tonight. Lock will be at 7:30, along with the rest of the sites. But use the promo code AWESEMO. Get yourself $20 in super cash on your first $10 or more deposit. That'll get you an entry and more into that NBA jump shot contest. You don't have to worry about salaries. It's all multipliers. So you can roster whoever you want. 3 guards, 3 forwards, and a center. Couldn't be easier to put together a lineup. I posted my top 10 plays on Twitter earlier today. Alex's Super Draft projections will be free once the projections are posted. So anybody can go and check them out, try to build a lineup, and get yourself in. It's the newest spot to be. They're running, $4, $5, $6, $7, sometimes $1,000 up top on their main contest. We're seeing some overlay from time to time. So it's one of, if not the best contest that you can get in, generally speaking, every day in the DFS calendar, because you're going to have to pay out less than a normal amount of rake, and that is a benefit. Now, eventually, I believe that you're probably seeing some softer competition as well, a second benefit. But go to superdraft.io, use that promo code AWESEMO, and get yourself $20 in super cash. Also, head to awesemo.com/join. Use the promo code NBA Strategy, one big word. Get yourself 50% off your first week of Awesemo Plus. That can cover everything. NBA slowly winding down, but still got a lot to go. Baseball is going to be here in like 2.5, 3 weeks. That is approaching quite quickly. NHL still going. Jake Hari holding it down. NASCAR, golf, MMA, tennis. What am I missing?
UFC now.
Yeah.
And we got a great group of fellas doing those UFC shows.
Absolutely.
Free on YouTube. Really good stuff. And I would definitely suggest everybody check that out.
No doubt about it. And you can do all of that if you use that promo code NBA Strategy. One big word. 50% off your first week. You ready to dive into this 3-gamer?
Let's make it happen.
Yeah. Let's see. First game up. Atlanta Hawks, Charlotte Hornets. Hawks are 4.5-point favorites at home. Yeah, I said it. Seems to be business as usual for both of these teams. Best I could tell, other than Malik Monk being suspended, we're going to get the best they have to offer outside of, I guess, obviously Clint Capella not being healthy for Atlanta. On the Hawks side, Trae Young, 9,600 on FanDuel, 10-3 on DK. Does not have a multiplier on Super Draft. His best price is, without question, the $9,600 on FanDuel. Guy I like the most, though, probably John Collins, 8,600 on FanDuel. He is my number 1 ranked power forward for today. Nobody from Atlanta cracking my top 10 on DK, but Young, Collins, Herter, Reddish, those are the guys I have my eye on. How do you feel about the Hawks against the Hornets? Slow game for Atlanta. Major slow game, but Hornets defense stinks.
Yeah, dude, this Hawks team has been ridiculous. Hard to gauge. And it's funny because you and I spent so much time discussing it the other day against Washington, and Trae Young, who wasn't questionable with that illness at the time, ends up not playing.
Yeah.
So, I think first of all, the injury situation here is a lot less concerning. The only guy that I'm looking at that might not play, that might make some bit of a difference, is DeAndre Hunter, and I don't even think that matters too much. But Lloyd Pierce is doling out huge minutes to a lot of these players. And actually, was it Trae Young played last game against Memphis, missed Washington, right?
I can't remember who it was.
I think that's right. Yeah, I think that's right. So
he missed on Friday the 6th. If that was Washington, then yes.
Yeah, what's crazy though is the Charlotte Hornets have actually been playing really good basketball, and they are. I mean, okay, check this out. And by the way, I'll send you that link of Parlay Pats because it's ridiculous. So their last several games, I'm pointing this out because I would expect this to be very close. Hornets 108-99 over the Rockets.
Yes,
they lost on the last shot of the game to the Nuggets, who played terribly. They lost to the Spurs by 1 point. They lost to the Bucks by 8, but that game was very close. They beat the Raptors and they beat the Hornets. The Knicks. So they're actually playing surprisingly well, which doesn't matter much because it's Atlanta. But Charlotte also plays at a crawling pace. The thing is, even it's a 3-game slate, so you're looking at a 224 total, which is tied for the highest with the Jazz and the Raptors. So I'm not even really considering pace all that much on this slate. There's not much to compare it against. I would say Trae Young at this price, how does he stack up against the rest of the high-priced options? Well, Giannis Antetokounmpo is not playing. He's already ruled out. And then you've got, say, Jokic against Milwaukee, and then it falls. So John Collins is $9K on DraftKings. This might actually be a spot where I'm willing to get there. You said 86 on FanDuel, a whole lot more reasonable. Yeah. But Trae Young against this Charlotte team, how much exposure do you anticipate having if you locked your lineups now?
Young, Collins, Herter, Reddish would make up, I don't know, I'm figuring probably something in the like 10 to 15% each range. Nobody from Atlanta on DraftKings is going to be one of my main core plays. On FanDuel, I think Collins would be the guy that I would have the most, and I would have a lot. That's just the way power forward looks today. It's basically there's basically only 4 power forwards.
Right, it's true. Interestingly, Charlotte's allowing the second fewest points to ball handlers in the pick and roll this year, which is very strange. The second fewest points to ball handlers in the pick and roll, but they're also seeing them operate at the third lowest frequency. Take from that what you will. They're allowing basically middle of the road in points per possession, but teams have not been, I won't say effective because they've been mildly effective, but they have not operated in the pick and roll nearly as much against Charlotte as other teams have. I mean, you're talking second fewest points, third lowest frequency. On a larger slate, that would be something I consider. On this slate, I don't think it's something that you can really buy into all that much. I don't. The stats, I don't want to say stats mean less on this slate, but in terms of tiebreakers and riding the fence with someone like Trae, it's not, okay, do I play Trae Young or Luka or Westbrook or Harden? You don't really have those options. No. So not necessarily worried about the pace of play, not worried about anything outside of the fact that in a close game, we should get huge minutes from him, and he should do what he normally does. He played 29 minutes last game, though, but that game got out of control. They got smoked by Memphis before that, and he missed the Atlanta game. He was also dealing with somewhat of an illness. I would expect him to get back to 38, 37, maybe 36 minutes or so today, which is what you're looking for in a top-tier player.
Yeah. Do you see any sort of like legitimate value coming out of Atlanta today? The
legitimate value?
Yeah, is it take a shot on Teague or Dedmon or something like that today?
The one guy that I'd be more than willing to take a shot on is Dedmon.
Okay.
We'll get to Reddish in a second because the minutes are getting somewhat interesting. But we'll start with Dwayne Dedmon. So against Washington, again, the game that Trae missed, he played 20 minutes, but that fourth quarter, he racked up some really solid numbers. Not only did he salvage, but at 3,400, 26.5 fantasy points is good enough for me. Played 21 minutes the game after that. Now listen to this. He still crossed the 20 fantasy point threshold, and he shot 1 for 11 on the day. He also got to the line 4 times. So and grabbed 10 boards. I think Dwayne Dedmon on a slate like this makes for a very appealing play. at the moment, he's one of my preferred value options. Do we wish he was a little bit cheaper? Yeah, sure. But you're going to be hard pressed to find guys you really like that are heavily discounted. And I'm not worried about the likes of Cody Zeller and Guillermo Hearn Gomez keeping him away from the basket. So I think it's a decent enough spot for Dwayne Dedmon for sure.
Oh, you don't think Willie Hearn Gomez is going to lock him down?
No, I don't.
No, not the spot for him.
Not the spot.
Yeah, Dedmon's the type of guy that can, you want to have a little bit of. He's not going to look great because you don't necessarily think he's going to get a lot of minutes, but the moment he gets like 24 and gets a couple blocks, and it's like, oh, that's the guy I needed now.
Exactly.
Short slates are weird. So let's talk Reddish then. 4,600 on FanDuel, 4,500 on DK. I'm not all that interested on FanDuel. The $4,500 price tag on DraftKings opens him up a bit. He's ranked last for me out of all the Hawks guys that make my player pool, but he's ranked nonetheless, so he makes it in there. What do you see for Reddish? Because it feels like his range of outcomes is the biggest of anybody on this team.
So the injury that was listed for him, you ready for this? On Saturday when he only played 12 minutes was lower limb cramping. It's an odd one, eh? Lower limb cramping.
I feel like it's not his legs.
Listen, unless it's massive, we don't call that a limb.
I mean,
you're saying when this guy skis, he makes 3 marks?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
What a wild direction you just took.
I just mean if it's lower.
Can it cramp though? Can it cramp?
If it's that big. I don't know, man. I don't know. You would just say leg, wouldn't you?
I mean,
Why?
Ideally, yes. Yeah, you know what? Why don't they just say leg?
Because it's not his leg.
Is it his third leg?
It seems it. Seems it. That's the only thing that makes sense to me.
Oh, man.
The only thing that makes sense to me. I don't know. I don't know if it cramps. I have no idea.
I don't either. I can safely say that I've never had a cramp in the third leg.
No.
But I digress.
Sure.
What
are you projecting him for? I gave him 28 minutes.
I have him at 30.
Okay.
Now, do you think DeAndre Hunter potentially being out will affect Cam Reddish positively?
It probably doesn't matter all that much other than locking him in a little bit. His minutes are going to be pretty secure at that point. It'll be hard for him to play a lot less, but I just assume that, we just see that much more of Travion Graham and Vince Carter.
Yeah, probably. Actually pulling up the last game he missed, because there was a stretch there where he was missing a decent amount of games, or at least it felt like it. So the last game DeAndre Hunter missed was the 22nd of February against the Mavericks. Okay. And Cam Reddish played 39 minutes. Now, listen, I'm obviously not projecting him for 39 minutes.
That's what I heard. I heard you say he's playing 39 minutes today.
Good luck with that. And then the one prior to that was the 3rd of February against the Celtics, which was a relatively close game. Reddish was also out. So,
all right, let me. I can pull this up pretty quickly. DeAndre Hunter.
I mean, I'm pulling all the games. I mean, he just was. Reddish played 7 minutes in the other one that he was out.
Oh, fantastic.
He got hurt.
Cool. 39 and 7.
Well, he got hurt, man. What do you want from me?
Look, I think 28 to 30 is a pretty safe bet here for Reddish. And at that point in time, you want him in GPPs.
Yeah, I'm just saying I think if Hunter's out, it might actually make a bigger difference. So back to the games where he wasn't hurt.
Yeah.
And he played 37 minutes in the one before that DeAndre Hunter missed. So Hunter's missed 4 games. 2 of them, Reddish either was hurt or didn't play, right? 7 minutes and inactive. The others, he played 39 and 37.
And like, what do you do with that information, you know?
Give him 32 maybe if Hunter's out.
So is Cam Reddish your favorite hawk on DraftKings?
If Hunter doesn't play, I think you could easily consider him one of your favorite plays, if not the top option at that price point.
I think he would be my top hawk if DeAndre Hunter doesn't play.
Yeah.
Because he's pretty close on DraftKings right now. And I think even if I just gave him 30 minutes, he probably already is. And that would be with Hunter in.
So I don't see him. Okay, so he's already been ruled in. Cam Reddish has.
Right. He's not on the injury report.
The lower limb is back to full strength.
Yeah. I mean, he could also not play, but as of right now, we have no reason to suspect he's not playing.
Man, how do you let your trainer work on that?
Lot of, probably not. This is probably not the show for it.
I was trying to set you up.
Yeah. A lot of Tiger Balm.
If Hunter doesn't play, I'll comfortably give Reddish 32 minutes, and honestly wouldn't be surprised if he played more than that.
No, not at all. Not at all. I would say Reddish would be my favorite play on DraftKings. John Collins' favorite play on FanDuel.
Yep. I might give Reddish 33 or 34, honestly. But at that point, it won't matter.
I'm going to actually, given this conversation, I'm going to bump him from the 28 that I have up to 30. And that will lock him in as, the guy I want most from Atlanta on DraftKings. And then we get to the Hornets. Pace up spot. They also get the benefit of a crappy defensive team in that the Hawks are fast and bad. I have so much Charlotte right now that it's really uncomfortable.
You have to. You don't really have much of a choice in this at this point.
All right, so we'll start with the similar. Do you prefer Terry Rozier or Devonte Graham?
Okay. Well, the price points, just so everyone's clear that maybe driving and listening or something and isn't at their computer, isn't following along with salaries. Graham on DraftKings is 6,400. Rozier is 6,600. On FanDuel, Rozier is 5,900 and Graham is 61. Yeah. So they're $200 separated, except on DraftKings, Rozier is more expensive. On FanDuel, Graham is more expensive. So it really, not much to differentiate there.
No.
I think I still go with Graham here.
Okay.
Just from an upside standpoint, I know he has not played particularly well, but I think there's more there because he's still a solid playmaking guard, but he's also someone that can rattle off a ton of scoring. Terry Rozier against Houston had a really impressive shooting game, and he's been shooting not well, but solid enough to where he's giving you decent numbers. There really isn't much of a distinction between these two guys at this point with Devonte Graham shooting falling off a cliff over the past several months. And
yet Devonte Graham basically 0.2 of a point, fantasy point higher in the last 30 days than Rozier. And Rozier is shooting. Graham is at 0.96. Rozier is at 0.78. It's pretty dramatic.
Wow.
Yeah. And Terry Rozier is shooting 40% from 3 this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was that dramatic. That's insane.
Yeah.
I didn't think
so either because I didn't feel like Devonte Graham was playing all that well, but apparently Terry Rozier also not playing all that well.
Terry Rozier just playing significantly worse. Yeah. Well, from an ownership standpoint, we have Graham on DraftKings projected at 36%.
Didn't know it was out. Whoops.
And Rozier at 20%. So, I mean, definitely worth considering ownership.
Yeah.
When you're talking about two guys that are so similarly priced. 35% for Graham on DraftKings. Rozier is at, FanDuel. Rozier is at 20%.
I've got ownership loaded into the sheet now. So.
Oh, wow. So they're basically the same.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. Let me just make sure of something.
What are you looking for? I got them both in front of me.
We're good. I got it. I just wanted. It was just strange because Graham and Rozier were almost identical on DraftKings and FanDuel.
By the way, Trae Young is 65% owned on FanDuel right now.
Mm-hmm. He is.
John Collins,
and he's not the highest projected owned player.
No, he's not. John Collins, 69. It's nice.
Nice.
So on DK, I just want Rozier over Graham if the ownership disparity is going to be that big. On FanDuel, I want Rozier either way, and you're getting that ownership disparity. It's craziness. It's absolutely crazy. Give me Rozier. Yeah. I have no reason to suspect that Terry Rozier is a 0.78 fantasy point per minute guy when he's been like a 0.95 guy for a year and a half.
Yeah. The one thing I really cautioned against this season was like we loved Terry Rozier last year when Kyrie Irving was out, right? And when Marcus Smart was out with Kyrie Irving. But that was because you're getting him at like $4,500.
Right. So you remember rostering him because he's a value, not because he was a talent.
100%. And I don't think Terry Rozier is a bad player by any stretch.
He's not worth that money.
No. But I mean, now you start having to pay a mid to high 6K price tag for him. All of that changes a little bit. Yeah. And you're beginning to see that, okay, Terry Rozier isn't a great per minute guy, and he never was. No. He was just giving us great fantasy production because we were getting him so cheap. And that's what we're seeing. 0.93 fantasy points per minute on the season. Josh, that's not terrible, but for a $6,600 player, it's also not great. It just so happens that we only have 3 games, and he's facing the Atlanta Hawks in a massive pace-up spot. When I said I wasn't too worried about pace earlier, what I meant was pace down spots are not going to dissuade me from getting there. Pace up spots, you're not going to have a choice but to make that decision. But like with the Hawks, maybe we wouldn't love them on most cases. It's going to be hard to get away. The Hornets, they stand out easily as your top options, and I don't know how you get away from them. No. So, okay, you tell me with Rozier and Devonte Graham, you just kind of mentioned it, but the ownership disparity here, assuming that holds, how much of an impact does that have for you?
On DK, it's huge. Because I think they're basically equal. So I would rather just flip-flop those guys and have slightly more Rozier than Graham. On FanDuel, I pretty dramatically prefer Rozier, and he's already owned at like half of the amount of Devonte Graham. So it's a no-brainer. That's not to say that I don't like Graham. Rozier, Graham, Bridges, and Washington all are ranked second at their positions on FanDuel. So yeah. It's just going to be a lot of Charlotte one way or the other, but Rozier is my favorite play in this game, and I like it even more given the fact that he is like the third most owned guy.
Favorite play in the game, you said?
Well, he's definitely my favorite play in the game. I meant to say for Charlotte, but Rozier is my favorite play in this game.
What about the center rotation between Cody, Zeller, and Willie, Hearn, and Gomez? Because Zeller's minutes are up. Yeah. Production is basically exactly what you would expect. But if you're talking about, I think this is an interesting proposition. So Guillermo Hearn or Willie Hearn and Gomez, as we affectionately call him, Josh, is playing some decent minutes since the start of March. He's played 20, 18, 23, and 18. Fantasy points, 37, 21, 22, and 18. So if you've got him in a stellar matchup against the Hawks, pace up spot, bad defense, much higher total than this team normally sees, and you give him 20 minutes, Would you rather have him or Dwayne Dedmon at basically the same price? Kind of a tough one.
It's So I don't think that Hernangomez really has like 30-minute ceilings.
Yeah, and that's where you can draw the difference. Sure.
But
if
he might.
You were to
but at the same time, like if Cody Zeller, let's say Cody Zeller got hurt in the first minute, I think that Biyombo just plays then.
Probably. Yeah,
So,
I would think so.
I don't think they're going to be like, oh shit, we got to run Hernangomez 38 tonight. So I don't think that the minutes upside is there enough to get to Dedmon, but if Hernangomez is 2% on a 3-gamer, I'm a little intrigued. But not like, he's just like a 5% guy at best.
Okay.
And then
and someone mentioned that it's pronounced Billy.
There's no way that's true.
This is one where I 100%. You know how you say you refuse on some of these?
Yeah.
I mean, Basketball Reference has it as Billy.
Shut up. Are you serious?
There's no way. There's no way.
It is. Oh my God.
There's no way I'm taking and you know, I'm pretty disciplined when it comes to pronunciations, Josh. A W to a B, a Willie to a Billy. You've got to be shitting me.
I don't understand. Just make it a B then. Go by Billy Hernangomez.
Not to mention, and maybe I'm just not cultured enough to know this. Where do you get Willie or Billy from Guillermo?
I assume that's like a Spain thing.
Spanish thing?
Yeah. Let's see. Guillermo nicknames. Oh, okay. So I don't know why. Interesting. The origin of Guillermo means will helmet protection. It's the Spanish form of William. So he's Billy because of that.
Okay, so TMCB says in chat, Guillermo's Spanish for William. Williams are often called Bill or Billy or Willie. No, Uncle says, listen to the broadcast. It's Billy. I'm not saying it is. I just looked it up on basketball. I believe you. I'm not denying that.
But like we don't call people named William. They don't call themselves. They don't spell it Willie and then be like, right. I go by Billy.
Right, but apparently, so Guillermo is William, essentially in Spanish.
Right. So all of that makes sense. But
where's the Willie and Billy distinction?
Why would you spell it Willie but pronounce it Billy?
Right.
Like nobody named William spells it Willie and pronounces it Billy.
We got some sharp people in chat. Explain to us why Willie is pronounced Billy and not just spelled Billy. I'm serious. Like this is a learning experience for both of us, Josh. Right? I did not know this. You did not know this, but I can Guillermo, Willie, gotcha. All that 100. I'm having trouble with the Willie and Billy thing now. Yeah. Once we get past that, I'd be okay.
Agreed. This is craziness.
So what are your thoughts on Billy H? No, in all seriousness, do you have any interest in Zeller?
So he's my number 3 center on FanDuel, 4,300, only at 7% ownership. That's a guy that I would want to be taking a little bit more of. I mean, your center options now are Jokic, Lopez, Zeller, and Gobert. So I think him at 7% ownership is like, I would rather have Zeller than Dedmon. I'm talking FanDuel specifically.
Yeah. Willie Hernangomez. I no longer pronounce my name Billy.
I can't.
Boom. So we were right the whole time.
Honestly, it got to be too much of a hassle. I had to correct
Yep.
everyone all the time. Now that I'm one of the best young centers in the game, I'm getting tired of fans on the streets yelling out, "Hey, Willie, I mean Billy. From now on, you can just call me Willie, like it's spelled."
Can we back up for a second
Yes.
to that line where he says, "Now that I'm one of the best young centers in the game"?
Yeah, so the next line is basically, Hernangomez has really come on since the All-Star break, averaging 11 points on 52% shooting and 9.5 rebounds in his last 17 games.
Mind you, this article's from 2017.
I think that statement was probably true.
Well, read to the bottom. April Fools, he still calls himself Billy.
Oh, geez, come on now. I'm tired
You
of
guys
this.
are assholes. Oh, man.
So we got bit by a April Fool's joke from 3 years ago. Fantastic. You're not going to get this much detail on Hawks Hornets anywhere else, folks. What do you want to do with Bridges in Washington? It's a tale of two sites. I prefer Bridges on DraftKings. He is 36% owned on both sites. I prefer Washington on FanDuel. He is 5,200 on FanDuel. But Rozier, Graham, Bridges, Washington, all my number 2 at their positions today.
So what was your question?
How do you feel about Bridges in Washington?
So we've got to the centers. We've hit on the guards. Now we get to these wing players that just make life miserable. I honestly think, and Bridges has been someone that Josh, had very little interest in rostering at like these high 5K price points. I'm going to have some Bridges today. I don't know how I'm not going to. Against Atlanta, 5,500, presumably going to play 30 plus minutes. I know his minutes were a bit limited in the last 2 games, but I'm giving him 30 here. At that price, I'm basically forced into doing so. And with PJ Washington, he's playing big minutes, right? 32 plus minutes. And I think 4 straight, he's played north of 30 in all but one of his last 10. And he's been pretty productive. He's 5,600. I like Washington over Miles Bridges, but unfortunately, the case with the Hornets today is that you have to be considering all of them as viable options.
How ridiculous would it be if to explain to a child that the movie Free Willy was actually called Free Billy? How long would it take to do that?
I don't know.
Fascinating.
I don't know, because there's no precedent for that, Josh.
No, it's not. It's made up. It's not Josh anymore. I pronounce that J like a Q.
Quash.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Exotic.
Yeah. That's just my choice. I just pick random letters, make them sound like other stuff.
So,
but only when I have a mustache.
So now, you know what? I'm not gonna dig further down this rabbit hole. It might get out of hand.
That's fair. We're already 44 minutes in, and this is still game 1.
Yeah, but that's outrageous.
We told you 2 hours.
Yeah, no, but this game is the one that clearly takes longer than anything. We covered it, but these other games, like, you want to move to Utah, Toronto? I mean, let's go.
I mean, the next game we're going to is Denver, Milwaukee, but that's neither.
Oh, they're the same team. Yeah, we go on different.
Yeah,
we're looking at
I go alphabetical order by time. It doesn't matter. Who is your favorite Hornet today on DraftKings? Let's sum this one up. We didn't even touch on like Cody Martin or other Martin.
I don't know if we need to. Did you want to?
I mean, I will have more than 5% on FanDuel, I would imagine, but that's neither here nor there. Not that I like him, just one of those things.
So I have so many Hornets that are basically grouped together as all of them being viable plays, from Bridges to Washington to Graham to Rozier, that, God, I'd probably go Graham, but I think the mid 5K prices on Washington and Bridges are perfectly fine. Rozier and Graham just haven't really separated themselves from the pack recently.
I would go Rozier. Coin flip between Rozier and Graham on DK. I'll take the ownership discount. But I have Rozier, Graham, Bridges, and Washington all in my top 10 on DraftKings. So
okay.
Hard to get away from the Hornets against the Hawks.
I don't think you can.
No.
I don't think you should, honestly. And like I said, they're actually playing much better basketball. Is that going to continue? I don't know. Are they still low scoring games? Yeah, sure they are. But they've at least been a lot more effective recently. And I don't know, just throwing it out there over their last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think it was their last 6 games going back to the 26th. They've actually been playing significantly better defense than you would have ever expected them to. Is that something that we should expect to continue? Probably not, because they're still not a good team. But there was a point here where it's like, okay, the Hornets are going to lose by 30, and then, it's just a normal day. But I'm not sure if that's the case right now. They have the 7th best defense over that span, 107 points per 100 possessions. Offensively, they've still struggled, but it is what it is, man. They've looked a little better, and maybe Atlanta has some trouble scoring today.
This game could be really ugly.
Very much so. I have that exact concern, but it doesn't matter.
No, not at all.
You can't fade this game because it might be ugly.
No, you can't. No, you cannot. There's a lot to like, man. There's a lot to like here. FanDuel is Rozier and Graham for me pretty clearly. But again, Rozier, Graham, Bridges, Washington, all second at their positions. Guys, hit the like button. We've got 500 people in here, only 80 likes. Let's just get that over 100 quick. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that good stuff. NBA Strategy syllabus is free today. NHL lineup builder, free today. Got the PGA First Look, Ben Ross, Sal Vetri, Jeff Ulrich coming up at 3 p.m. NHL Strategy show at 4 with Jake Hari. Alex will have his game plan stream behind the paywall at 4 p.m. Adam and Laffy will be back for the deeper dive at time to be determined. I will be back with Chris Baggs tonight for Live Before Lock at whatever time the deeper dive ends. So there's that. I'll have office hours today, 1 p.m. Eastern, in our Slack chat. You go to the premium office hours chat for that. I'll take a bunch of questions for about an hour. We can talk whatever you guys want to do. I'll have some fun. I want to make sure that I'm not missing something else. Everything shows up in different channels, so it's really hard to follow. I don't even remember where I got tagged in this now. Daily marketing plan. There it is. Pga Giveaway. Head to the Awesemo Golf Twitter handle. You have the opportunity to win a free Awesemo Plus PGA yearly pass if you can guess the winner of the Players' Championship this week. All you have to do is retweet, like, and reply to the tweet that we have pinned. But you could win a $250 value, a PGA yearly pass of Awesemo Plus. Go check that out.
Who's going to win it, Josh?
Greg Norman.
Okay.
Sevi Ballesteros. No, I don't know. Brooks Koepka, because I don't know. Why not?
Give me Rory.
There you go. I might actually play golf this week.
Nice.
Yeah. We'll see. I don't know if I'm going to have enough time. I don't know. Might go to Bed Bath & Beyond. Denver Nuggets, Milwaukee Bucks. Nugs are 3.5-point favorites at home. Milwaukee, obviously, without Giannis Antetokounmpo. Denver's basically 4 dudes for me, and the Nuggets are the team that I hate the most on a short slate because they have like 10 guys that can conceivably end up being the dude that day. Like, on a short slate, I hate when I don't have shares of Monty Morris or Mason Plumlee or, like whoever you project for less minutes at power forward. I hate not getting that guy. The Nuggets are really tricky for me on a short slate, but this is a major pace up spot for them. Jokic is the aggressively owned chalk center on both FanDuel and DK. 40% ownership, basically. 9,700 and 9,500, so I get it, or at least I get it on FanDuel. Murray, Barton, Millsap, all ranked either 3rd or 4th at their position on FanDuel. These guys are all in like the 15 to 20 range in terms of ranking. I don't have anybody that stands out dramatically for Denver in this spot. Anybody breaking free from the pack for you?
Well, I just want to start by saying that this team is somewhat like in crisis mode. They're not like on a macro level, they're not because they're still second in the West.
Yeah.
But they've lost to some really bad teams and they've done so recently, right? And this is they're either going to soundly beat Milwaukee or they're going to get smoked by the Bucks without Giannis Antetokounmpo. I really think that it's one of the two. It doesn't really matter much today because there's only 3 games. But the Nuggets as a whole, they're just it's not a team that I'm in love with today. The one advantage obviously is the pace of play. Pace up spot for the Nuggets. It's a pace up spot for the Hornets. So you've got that working in your favor. The Milwaukee Bucks play at the league's fastest pace, while the Denver Nuggets play at the league's slowest, fastest pace on the season. Huge disparity there. And that should help them. A 224 total in this game. Or I'm sorry, 219 total is actually relatively high for Denver Nugget games.
Yeah.
So if you're looking at cheap players, I don't think it's crazy to say Paul Millsap could be decent. He's a volatile guy. His production's been all over the map this season. And if you just scroll the box score, you're gonna wince. But this is, I want to say, a must-win game, just in that they need to right the ship after losing to the Warriors and the Cavs, and now they've got a very tough task. Albeit no Giannis, it's still a really tough matchup. I think you have all hands on deck here, Josh, and Millsap might play, 28 or so minutes, but at the same time, you could make the argument that Jeremy Grant has played significantly better than Millsap, and he might be the one to play 30 minutes. It wouldn't surprise me. So I'll throw it back over to you. But Nikola Jokic against the Bucks, I'm really not too concerned about this spot. He's good enough to where if he plays 34 minutes, not saying he will, but I think it's very possible that he does against the Bucks, you could get a huge game. There aren't really many pay up options on this slate whatsoever with Giannis out. And then Jamal Murray, ownership to me is going to play a pretty pivotal role because right now, let's just see, Devonte Graham on DraftKings is getting 36% ownership. Jamal Murray is getting 15% ownership, and he is not much more expensive than Rozier and Devonte Graham. So kind of an interesting spot there in a tough matchup, but a big time pace up spot for Murray.
Okay, so first thing we need to talk about, Millsap, Jeremy Grant. I split the minutes. I went 24-24. I have no idea what they're going to be doing here.
I'm okay with that. I have no idea either, but Jeremy Grant's been playing better than Millsap.
Okay, let's have that conversation now. Jeremy Grant, based on player impact plus minus, has been the worst Nugget this season of all Nuggets.
Okay.
Paul Millsap grades out as the second best Nugget.
I'm watching every game. Like, I hate to be that guy, but I'm watching every game where Jeremy Grant pulls them out of a hole late and gives them a 13-point lead because he knocks down 5 threes to seal the game at the end. And Millsap is nowhere to be found. So, sure, player impact. Jeremy Grant hasn't been good, but recently, with the amount of turmoil that this team has been in, I think Mike Malone would rather have Jeremy Grant on the floor than Paul Millsap, but we'll see.
I'm intrigued. Obviously, Millsap getting a lot more value on the defensive end than the offensive end.
I think I'd still rather play Paul Millsap, but I'm just saying.
I would also rather play Paul Millsap. Jeremy Grant, 0.79 FanDuel points per minute over the past 30 days. Millsap, 1.07.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, defensively, Jeremy Grant has had some massive mental lapses. Like against Cleveland, he was just standing around the basket as Dellavedova is lobbing half court alley-oops to whoever's out there. So I'm not absolving Jeremy Grant, but I don't think there's a big differentiator here between the two of them, which is why 24 minutes each makes the most sense.
I mean, I think the easiest thing to look at is this. We have Millsap at basically 20% ownership, and we have Grant at 5%.
Right.
I'll just take my chances with Grant. Like, that's what I mean about the Nuggets. it's so easy to go to that other guy. Like if Mason Plumlee is really 1% owned and Jokic is 46 on FanDuel, you should just have a little bit more Mason Plumlee.
Yep.
That's not to say that you like Jokic is a bad play or you shouldn't be playing Nikola Jokic, but these are the sorts of things that you need to do on a 3-game slate to dramatically affect it. Because if 46% of the people have Jokic and that doesn't go very well, Mason Plumlee is the immediate benefactor of that. I know we talk about it a lot, but it bears repeating.
Oh, I'm with you.
I really just don't like this Denver team, and I thought that I would because of the.
And by the way, sorry, I wouldn't be surprised if Mike Malone makes some radical in-game changes if things get off to a really bad start. There's nothing we can do about that now.
Yeah.
But if something happens and you see one of these like massive hockey line changes, and Monty Morris ends up playing big minutes just because Malone's fed up with how poor it's defensively. They've been terrible. They got smoked in transition. They can't defend guys in the paint. It's been bad. So I am at least prepared for something like that to happen today if they get off to an ugly start at home.
And every once in a while you get that Monty Morris game. Like March 1st, he played 29 minutes. The only guy that was out was Millsap. You wouldn't expect that to be a 1-to-1 relationship. February 23rd, he played 31 minutes. Everybody was available for that game.
Yeah.
So these games pop up from time to time where Monty Morris stays out there. And he's like a 0.86 guy, so like he's viable. 3,800 on FanDuel, 3,900 on DraftKings. But
Monty Morris is not a bad player.
No, not at all. He is a fantastic backup point guard.
He is 100% agree. Which is why, by the way,
making zero money.
This is why Denver should not ever be losing to teams like Cleveland and Golden State, because they should get enough separation when the bench is out there alone to where even if the starters struggle, Josh, against Juan Toscano Anderson and Michael Mulder and such, Sixers suck shit too. But that's a bench. Then I know they got rid of some people, but even Plumlee and Monty Morris, and then you stick a starter or two out there with them and stagger minutes. There's really no reason they should be losing those games because the amount of depth they have is unparalleled to most teams in the league.
Oh, it's hard to find major negatives on this team. It really surprised me to see that Jeremy Grant was such a monster negative in player impact plus minus because I would not have expected that for a multitude of reasons. One being that he's never been this bad.
Right. And the truth is when you watch, if you were to watch these games, you'd see what I mean, where I'm not arguing the stats, right? And defensively, there have been some struggles, but when you're watching the games, Jeremy Grant doesn't, when they're struggling, Jeremy Grant doesn't stand out as worse than everybody else. No. It's been like a collective failure.
Yeah. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that he's very not likely, he's not going to be involved. When they're struggling, you see it because it's Jokic and Murray and
for
Barton,
sure
the guys that are actively involved in the play itself, which is crazy. Sure. A little weird, but that's Denver's a weird team.
By the way, I want to point something out to you. That line was at 3 points yesterday. Jumped on it last night, which, by the way, got smoked on one the other day where I got 4 points in my favor and they ended up losing outright. So that was fun, but I'll take that any day. Opened at 3, Josh. Denver laying 3 points. It's moved to 5.5 throughout the morning. That's a big move.
It really
That's
is.
a really big move.
That's a good sign for Denver, right?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Look, we know how this works. Sometimes it doesn't go the way you want, but the fact that, you go from 3 to 5.5 is definitely significant no matter what the result ends up being.
So who is your favorite Nugget then today on DraftKings?
And by the way, some sites are saying it opened at 5.5. In some spots it did, but I can assure you it was 3 on a couple too. What's my what?
Who's your favorite Nugget today?
I'm not enamored with anybody. Mike Malone refuses to give Michael Porter Jr. enough minutes, which, by the way, has caused a lot of friction in Denver.
Well, he's right.
I honestly think that I would still I think that I would still go Jokic here.
Okay. I think it's Murray for me, just given the ownership and like the breakdown of this slate.
Yeah, and ownership definitely makes a difference compared to Devonte Graham and Rozier too, for sure.
But I think Denver just looks like appreciably bad on DraftKings.
Yeah.
FanDuel, Jokic is my number 1 center. Murray is my number 4 point guard. Barton is my number 3, I assume, small forward. Millsap, my number 4 power forward. But this is a team that you just cannot, like, you pretty much have to keep everybody from Denver in your player pool. I mean, if you want to, like, trim Torrey Craig, I get it. But one of these additional guys is going to get a couple extra minutes in this spot, and they're too talented to ignore in the mid-4s on a 3-gamer.
I would agree with you in that the bench for Denver could make a huge difference on this slate.
Yeah.
I still have Jokic as my number 1, but he's just in a totally different league than everybody else. You know,
let's do this. Trae Young or Nikola Jokic today?
Let me just pull up. Let me see what their ownership difference is.
They're the same.
Oh, they're the same. Trae Young.
Okay.
But yeah, Trae Young. It's very close.
Yeah.
Mason Plumlee is going to get like 16 minutes.
Yeah.
But if he played more than that, he could be a difference maker. He's almost minimum salary.
He's at 9% right now. Going to be hard to get above that number and feel good about it.
Yeah,
I think that's
agree.
about right.
And I'm not playing him alongside Jokic, even though once in a while there's a game where he plays 16 minutes and has 25. It's still rare.
Yeah.
So it would have to be, playing him in lieu of Jokic.
Is there any scenario where Chris Middleton and Eric Bledsoe aren't the 2 best plays on this slate?
I just don't know. I don't know how they can't be. And one of the big reasons for that is you have to break yourself out of this thinking that Denver's defense is really good.
Right.
They were top 10 in the league over the first few months. They've been disastrous, Josh. I know I keep coming back to this, but I have to. They've been disastrous lately. If you look at Denver's defense over the last month of games, it's been really ugly. They rank, where is it? They rank 28th. 28th. The Hawks and Timberwolves are the only team worse. 117 points per 100 possessions allowed by the Denver Nuggets. Now, interestingly, they rank first in offense over that span, first in the league, which actually makes a really good fantasy matchup. Their pace of play is very slow, but we expect that to be the case. It hasn't made a difference because teams are killing them in the paint and they're killing them in transition. So you can't look at Denver and be like, oh, well, really tough matchup, especially with the pace. No, they've been bludgeoned in really all facets of the defense. And not only that, they've been actually just falling apart. Jeremy Grant at one point, and he was under the basket with, I think it was Plumlee, and Dellavedova throws a lob up. And what happened is afterwards, Josh, they both just go like this. They both put their hands up and look to the bench. Like that's when you are in disarray. So I've been saying this about Denver and Utah, both teams that have lost their identity, and you're starting to see this more and more with this Denver squad. So I don't have to go all that much further into it, but it's been an issue for sure.
I need you to explain to me how Eric Bledsoe's price is $5,700 on DraftKings.
It's just dumb.
Like they've been out in front of this all year.
I've said it. They preemptively price guys really well. On Sirius XM yesterday, by the way, listen to Awesemo Radio, Sirius 210 XM 87, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern, Saturday, Sunday. I was so surprised because it looked like we knew Giannis was going to miss games. So even if they got that wrong and say we didn't know, you knew that he wasn't playing this game. Bledsoe is 5,700. It makes no sense. Josh, he played 35 minutes yesterday. He's going to play big minutes again.
I gave him 29, and I'm still going to get him in 100% of my DraftKings lineups.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I gave him 32, but still,
He's projected. I'm 3 points shy of his target score on DK at 29 minutes.
It doesn't make a difference. Like, it's crazy. And Middleton yesterday got up 26 shots, and he got to the line 11 times. 26 field goal attempts, got to the line 11 times. That's an insane amount of usage. Bledsoe, 19 field goal attempts, 5 free throws. These guys were doing they were almost exclusively doing the damage for Milwaukee while everybody else watched.
Andre in YouTube chat says Bledsoe due for a letdown game. Like, even if he has a letdown game, it's going to be 80% owned at a mid-tier price. I don't think, like, other than getting injured, if Eric Bledsoe just plays today, his normal amount of minutes, I don't think that he could even affect whether or not you win a contest.
No. And here, there's kind of a major issue there. Just go ahead and for a moment, take a look at his rates with Giannis off the floor this season.
Staggering.
It's like 1.5 fantasy points per minute. It's better than Middleton.
Yeah.
It's a 30+% usage rate or so, 36% assist rate. Wow, he froze up on me, but I off the top of my head, it's around those numbers.
Seems
so
right.
5,700? Are you kidding me? Arguably the best value we've had all year.
Except for when Aaron Baines is shooting step back threes.
Yeah, well, I'm saying on paper,
sure.
Like going into it.
Yeah, this is about as ridiculous as it gets. Like, it's a fully incorrect. He should be like 8K today.
It's truly outrageous. It makes no sense whatsoever.
Like, I have him projected for like 6 more points than Jamal Murray, $1,300 less expensive.
Yeah. Makes no sense.
Yeah.
It does not make any sense. So
he's basically he's impossible to get away from on DraftKings.
Yeah, we don't even need to talk about it anymore, honestly. That's how stupid it is.
And Middleton and Bledsoe are the first 2 things you put into a cash lineup on every site.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Not close. Ilyasova only played 15 minutes last game. Marvin Williams played 26 minutes. That game was wildly out of hand at one point. Down 25 points in the second quarter, believe it or not. The Bucks did not lead the game once, which is pretty crazy. Phoenix Suns had a pretty comfortable lead the entire time. The Bucks chipped away at it late, and Bledsoe and Middleton played the entirety of the fourth quarter, both of them. But the closing lineup, as it began to get closer, was Bledsoe, Middleton, DiVincenzo, Marvin Williams, and Kyle Korver. There's still a ton of bodies on this team.
Yeah. Ilyasova right now projected for no ownership. Marvin Williams essentially projected for no ownership. That's because he's 5K on DraftKings. They preemptively priced him up. You know who didn't? FanDuel. He's a flat minimum.
Exactly. Yep.
So they got to Marvin Williams, but they were like, Bledsoe? Nah.
Yeah, that's a great point. It doesn't make sense. No. DiVincenzo hasn't moved in price either, by the way. He's 4,800.
Unless they're still pricing Marvin Williams based on playing 32 minutes for the Hornets.
Yeah, even so.
Yeah, it's so like
DiVincenzo,
you don't play Marvin Williams on DraftKings. You don't even really need to play. Like they priced Ersan up too.
Yep.
How is Marvin Williams $700 cheaper than Eric Bledsoe?
It doesn't make any sense. But why didn't they price DiVincenzo above Marvin Williams? Explain that.
I have no idea.
He's my third favorite. He's my third preferred option on the Bucks. It's Bledsoe and Middleton and DiVincenzo.
How many minutes do you have DiVincenzo in for?
28.
Okay. I'm probably light. Let me give him 2 more. I want to go to 26.
He played 29 last game and he closed it out. And he was already playing, 25 or so minutes per game. More than that, as a matter of fact, in a lot of them. So, yeah, I think he gets the run today. But outside of that, there's nobody I really like here. I can't pay for those bigs.
No.
For the Bucks. Brook Lopez, 5,100. I think that's fine, but he'd be my number 4
on the Bucks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, he's my number 2 center. I actually have him 7th overall on DraftKings.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, I don't have him as high. Maybe you have more minutes in there for him than I do.
I give him 27.
Me too.
This is like a good game for Brook Lopez. Just, Jokic and Plumlee for 48 minutes. If there's ever a game where you're going to have Lopez out there, this is sort of the one. I just like that middle area for value, but there's no better value than Eric Bledsoe.
Correct. And I still think Dante DiVincenzo is too cheap on DraftKings.
Yeah, I'm with you there. What do you think Eric Bledsoe's ownership actually finishes at? We have it at 58. I think that you and I would both agree that it's going to be dramatically higher.
I don't know if it'll be dramatically higher, only because people make decisions that are kind of inexplicable. But
and the only reason I'm saying this is that as we go through the day, more news comes out. We start to see the extremes expand.
Right.
As we get closer to lock. So you'll see that in our ownership projections.
The ownership now is with the information that we're provided early in the day.
Right.
And as things change, it'll change along with it. I think depending on what happens throughout the day, assuming it stays relatively mild in terms of news, 70%. Like he should be 100.
I think it's like 75 to 80 at this point. 5,700 is just like a really ridiculous price tag because you can play any style of lineup today, and he is the guy that should be in it first. I mean, there is no way to like play stars and scrubs today.
Right. Agreed.
Yeah, that's everywhere. He might just be 100% owned in like a reasonable 50-50 or double up.
No, someone will always make the decision. Someone will forget to put their lineups in. Somebody will try and get cute.
Wild. I'd say favorite player in this game, but it doesn't matter.
There are going to be spots where he's 90+%. Yeah.
As he should be.
Oh,
so I have Middleton number 1 at his position, Bledsoe at number 1 at his position, Brook Lopez number 2 at center on FanDuel.
Okay.
Let's close it out. Utah Jazz, Toronto Raptors. Jazz 4-point favorites at home. Utah appears to be at full strength. Toronto, we're doing this dance again. I put Van Vliet in.
Yeah, so this is fun.
Yeah.
This has been, 3 or 4 games in a row now that we've been dealing with the same circumstances, right?
At least we got Gasol back, but now they're on a back-to-back. Does he play? Who knows?
So Van Vliet, it's the shoulder injury, and he's missed 5 straight games. So that's what always concerns me, right?
Yeah.
When you're dealing with something, it's hard to predict when you're returning after a semi-lengthy hiatus. I guess you can put him in, I guess, but I have no confidence in whether he plays or doesn't play at all. At all.
Neither do I. Neither do I.
It's
really shitty and annoying.
If we're assuming that he's in, I don't know how I get to much whatsoever from Toronto. Serge Ibaka, Marc Gasol are both playing. Pascal Siakam's price is up. Sure, Utah has not played particularly well defensively, but it's still it feels like an ugly game with a ton of mouths to feed on Toronto if Van Vliet's active. I don't know. I guess I'll throw it over to you and see what you're doing with it. But from the 2 other games we talked about, there's so much more to like, in my opinion.
Yeah, so tale of 2 sites once again. Toronto wildly more interesting on FanDuel than they are on DK. I think that you can play Ibaka no matter what on DraftKings at 5,900. I would not be surprised at all if Marc Gasol didn't play today. He is not coming back from like a hand injury or something. Yesterday was his first day back, and it's a hamstring. They have no need whatsoever to play him on a back-to-back. They can just play Chris Boucher for 15 minutes and play Ibaka for the rest of the center minutes. I think that'd be okay. So either way, I like Ibaka, Gasol in or out. On FanDuel, Siakam, 7,900, 50% owned right now. He's also my number 1 power forward. I mentioned it earlier in the show. There are only 4 power forwards, in my opinion, on FanDuel. So that one's going to be a tricky one. Kyle Lowry, 7,300. I think that whether Van Vliet is in or not, you have to at least look at Lowry. 35 plus minutes here, easy. 30% ownership, probably a little high. Van Vliet is projected out in our ownership. He's 6,400 on FanDuel, 6,500 on DK. We are not going to know if he's playing unless he's just ruled out. Like, we're not going to know unless he gets ruled out in the middle of the afternoon. We are not going to have this information at lock. So have a blast with that one on FanDuel. I would want like 5%.
The Serge Ibaka spot is the one spot specifically where I don't think you can really get away from, especially even if Gasol plays, the minutes are going to be somewhat limited.
They're not playing Gasol 24 minutes today on the back-to-back coming back after a month and a half of being injured.
No, but that's the one spot that I look at and say, hey, I really like that. Aside from that, I'm not really sure how much I'm going to get to. Ibaka's sub 6K on DraftKings. He's $5,700 on FanDuel. And no surprise, you're going to get some ownership there. Right now, we've got him at 32% on DraftKings and on FanDuel coming in at 5,200. It makes sense given the lack of depth at the position. But I don't love Lowry. I don't love Van Vliet. I don't love Siakam. I don't love Norman Powell. Am I going to end up somewhat here a little bit because of the abbreviated slate? Yeah, sure. But Serge Ibaka to me is far and away the best Toronto option today, whether or not, or regardless of whether or not Marc Gasol plays.
Yeah, we're completely on the same page there. Siakam on FanDuel makes some sense, but I think that ownership is probably too high. He's also a small forward, which makes no sense. But like I have Lowry really 5th at point guard, Van Vliet 6th at shooting guard. I guess I'm just going off the top of my head. Ibaka 3rd at power
which is very
forward.
Low. Which is low on a 3-game slate, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, I misspoke before thinking Siakam was, the position that he actually plays on FanDuel.
Yeah, it's stupid.
They're knocking every one of these guys back. It's good that he's a small forward for today, at least, but nobody stands out on Toronto as a guy that I have to have. Other than Serge Ibaka, who I think just sort of gets those minutes one way or the other. Not that I'm trying to avoid the Toronto starters. These guys play 38 minutes.
Yeah, they play 38 minutes, sure. I mean all right, so Kyle Lowry is priced very high. If Van Vliet plays again, then how much Kyle Lowry at 8,400 do you want?
Oh, I basically don't want him now with Van Vliet in. But even if he's out, it doesn't matter. 7,300 on FanDuel, though, opens up an entirely different conversation, unfortunately.
I just don't have confidence at all that if Van Vliet plays. So.
Oh, yeah, neither do I. I'd say that it's fully 50-50.
And then Norman Powell's almost $7,000.
But
he's played well.
5,500 on FanDuel.
Yeah, he's played well, but my issue with a guy like Norman Powell is at that price, you legitimately need 30 plus real points.
Yeah.
Not fantasy points. You need 30 plus real points from him.
Oh, I have him. I have him needing 49 at that price tag.
What's that?
He needs 49 at that
price
tag.
And he's not going to do it with rebounds and assists ever.
No.
Ever.
Brandon B says, how is Powell not a must play without Van Vliet? Because these guys get salaries.
Yeah, I literally just mentioned it. He's $6,800. Yeah. He's shooting ridiculous. He's shooting 54% or something over his last several games. Now, granted, he's a quality shooter on the season.
Yeah.
But with that type of shot volume, it's tough. His 3-point shooting has been insane recently, so look, Norman Powell's not a bad player, but almost $7,000 for him, knowing what you're going to need, is tough. Now, I guess, Josh, the question is, are the minutes enough for you to get to Norman Powell at that price? Even so, it's a little bit difficult.
If Van Vliet is out, he becomes way more appealing just because I think that he can play 38 minutes then. I only have him in for 32 right now because I do have Van Vliet in. I wouldn't even entertain the idea if Van Vliet's in. No, not at all. Only on FanDuel. Yeah, not 68 on DraftKings. No chance. Utah, I don't really have a hot take here. We know exactly who we're supposed to play from Utah. I think only Mike Conley on DraftKings stands out. But here's the ownership for the main 5 guys on Utah. Gobert 27, Mitchell 29, Conley 30, Bogdanovich 30, Clarkson 25. Like, they feel like our public ownership feels the same way that I do, in that none of these guys stand out. And I just need to rotate through everybody that plays, 28 plus minutes for Utah.
Yeah, but man, that is a very tightly grouped ownership between 6 of them.
Right. But is that wrong?
5
Like,
of
do you
them.
see one of those guys standing out to you? Like, I think Conley stands out just from like a point per dollar perspective.
Yeah, we've been saying that a lot lately. And it's not the same Mike Conley as we've seen in seasons past. That doesn't mean on this slate you don't have to get there. $5,300 specifically on DraftKings makes sense. He's playing 30 plus minutes, so then everything is there. I don't love the matchup at all, but if you stick him on the court for 30 plus minutes, then yeah, Conley makes sense. Like you said, there's just not really much separation in ownership here. Jordan Clarkson at 4,200 to me is also kind of interesting, because I think it's one of these spots where we've actually seen him get more playing time if he plays well, and he is shooting really, really well. Can you get 27, 28 minutes out of Clarkson? It's not out of the question. So $4,200 is very cheap on a guy like Clark. Well, sorry, very cheap for a slate like this where you're kind of looking for some value. I don't have an issue getting to him there. Especially when you're comparing him against some of these other players. Like Dedmon's the same price, different positions, but there's a lot of flexibility on DraftKings. Millsap is $400 more expensive. And yeah, Clarkson to me is always a decent option just based on his instant offense and very cheap price point.
Yeah, and there he is, 25% ownership on DK.
Yep. I mean, it's unfortunate, but they're all up there right now.
Right. Yeah. It's 6 dudes, 25 to 32% owned.
Yeah.
I think Conley stands out most to me, but that should be the least surprising thing you hear from me. I've been touting Conley for a while now, much to my chagrin. FanDuel, I don't really like Utah. Gobert is my number 4 center. I got Mitchell and Boyan at 5th at their position. Conley 6th. Like, they're priced up. Gobert is $500 more expensive on FanDuel. Mitchell is only $300 cheaper. Conley more expensive on FanDuel. Boyan only $300 cheaper. But we've got Mitchell at 34% ownership and Boyan at 31. Those are big numbers on this slate, and I think that it's easier to go a different direction.
I'm a little confused by them, in all seriousness. What is it about Utah that makes them so much more appealing than all of these other teams, even though it's a small slate? Like, I'm not necessarily sure I'm buying into that, especially if 6 of these guys or 5 of these guys are catching 20+% ownership. How are you spreading that production out?
You can't, like, that's sort of the problem with Utah, right? That there are 6 guys that can beat you, and they're all pretty like equally set up to beat you relative to their salary.
Mm-hmm. You just never know who it's going to be.
Now, I would guess that Utah will be the team that I am most under the field on.
So let's close it out with this then. With Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, the 2 most expensive players on Utah, how much interest do you have in them specifically?
Not like I don't really have much interest in anything here.
This whole slate is really a weird. Honestly, it's a very strange slate.
Like, we've got Boyan on FanDuel at 30% ownership. I've got his implied at like 19.
How much Utah would you have if this was an 8-game slate?
0.
Okay.
Well,
right.
Conley on DK, but essentially 0.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, relative to their, like, they just don't look good relative to their salaries.
That's all I got on Utah.
Yeah, it's like I look at Gobert at 30% ownership, and it's just like, I mean, like, we've got Brook Lopez just sitting there at 5,100 on FanDuel at 11. We really think that Gobert outscores Brook Lopez that often at $3,300 more expensive? That's craziness.
It's also not a particularly encouraging matchup for Gobert.
No, not at all. So I am fascinated by how news comes out for the rest of this slate. It's one of the weirder 3-gamers we've had because that Hawks Hornets game is just like a boon for like DFS performances in bad basketball. And then the 9:00 game is like 4 legitimately good NBA teams. And there's like a question mark across the board for everybody.
Right.
So seeing where the public gets to, seeing what news we get that like can open things up, more important than it normally is, because every little piece is going to have major ripple effects.
And it's also just makes it strange too that Utah and Denver have been playing really like the unpredictability level for Utah and Denver right now is through the roof.
Yeah.
You don't know what team you're going to be getting. Charlotte's been playing markedly better. It's strange. No Giannis. So Anthony Marcus says every 3-game slate is weird. Yeah, sure. But there's a lot to digest on this one on a number of different levels. And you just have to hope that you get it right. Like I said, I think Denver comes out and plays well, but it might also be possible that like they still haven't hit quote unquote bottom and figured things out. But I think they come out and play well against a good team. Utah, I mean, they're favored by like 4.5, 5 points against Toronto.
Just to pass this through, we got tagged in it. Hornets recalled Dwayne Bacon from the G League today.
Okay.
I don't think it matters all that much.
I don't think so.
It's another body. But you probably just lose like minutes to the Martins.
I was going to say 5. He might not even play. Dude, Dwayne Bacon was catching DNP-CDs even when he was on the team.
Yeah. I think he plays. I don't think it's relevant. And I don't think it makes anybody else like less relevant.
No, it's not going to hurt Bridges or Washington.
No. I don't know. Sum it up. Give me your favorite, 3 or 4 plays on DK today.
Bledsoe, Middleton, DiVincenzo, all 3 of them from Milwaukee. DiVincenzo is not my top 3, but I like him. Trae Young. I really think Cam Reddish could be a phenomenal play. His ownership right now is super low. That's worth paying attention to.
Absolutely. So
Bridges and Washington have to be in the picture, and same with Rozier and Devonte Graham. Just, keep an eye on ownership. But the Utah Toronto, and Serge Ibaka on DraftKings and FanDuel is one where I would like to get away from, but there's just no real way it's happening. I don't have priority plays from Utah. I wouldn't say I have priority options from Denver, but I do have some guys that like Murray and Jokic, and maybe that power forward spot. All of them are at least viable, particularly because of how much of a pace up boost they get. But yeah, Utah, Toronto, and collectively is by far my least favorite game on this slate.
On FanDuel, I'm just going to give like a guy relative to their ownership right now. Terry Rozier at point guard would be the guy that I'm most interested in. One last time, don't get your injury news from FanDuel or DraftKings, everybody. The constant repeating of Reddish being out on FanDuel is the least interesting information. He is not on the injury report. Go to actual
Not only
sources.
is he not out, but he's already confirmed to be playing.
Yeah. He is not on the injury report. So there's that. Read the actual source documents. Shooting guard. Honestly, I think Chris Middleton, projected for 53% ownership, is under-owned on FanDuel. That is the guy that I would want more of. Small forward, probably Will Barton going most underrepresented. Cam Reddish, actually, only at 5%. That's silly. Power forward, most under-owned to me, PJ Washington. And then at center, absolutely got to be Brook Lopez. Dude,
okay.
90 minutes. 3-gamer. You're welcome, everybody. You're welcome. When you're good, you're good.
That's right, man.
perfect opportunity for the 563 of you that are still here to hit that like button. We've got 148. We need it to at least go over 150 before we leave.
149.
I'm waiting for it'll jump to like 160 immediately once the audio catches.
And now there's a coronavirus discussion.
Cool. Perfect opportunity. There it is, 160. There we go.
That should be fun.
So thank you guys. Tons of content coming up throughout the day. Golf Guys will be back at 3 p.m. to talk first look at salaries. Ben, Sal, and Jeff. So go check that out. Lofty will be back with Adam for the deeper dive. I will be back with Spags for Live Before Lock, and we are out of here. Lofty, you got anything else?
That's it, man. You guys have a good day. We'll catch you back here tonight. Peace.
There we go.